Welcome, friends, to episode 23 of Conversations with a Martial Artist. And I've got a different one for you today. A new martial art we haven't discussed before is Savate, which is a form of French kickboxing. Fairly similar. James is going to talk you through a lot of it, but it involves wearing shoes as well, which is a little bit unique. Really great conversation with a very knowledgeable guy. My guest today is James Antill. He's the head coach and Team G representative for Savate for the UK. He has a ton of accolades to his name, as well as some really good competitive students. He holds a yellow glove, which is one of the ranks in Savate, as we talk about a little bit later. But he's got some great awards himself. 10 times British champion. He's been a bronze and silver medalist 4 times at the Europeans, and has 3 medals at the World Championships as well, which is fantastic. So really knows his stuff, really passionate. He's been doing it for over 2 decades now, so couldn't pick a better person to learn about Savate from. I had the pleasure of going down to his class. It was fantastic. Guildford Savate. I've put the links to the website and all his other social medias and things like that in the description, so please do check them out. It's a really interesting conversation and I hope you enjoy it. I will let you sit back and enjoy now. All right. So, James, thank you very much for agreeing to sit down with me and for having me through your class as well. The burpees at the end finished me off a little bit, I'm not going to lie. I'm probably not my top form, but it was a good technical class.
Pleasure to have you along, Tom. Thank you for coming and joining us. It's always nice to have new people along, and especially experienced martial artists, because we can learn from you as much as you can learn from us. So, there's always something to be learned from another kick punch.
Well, fighter, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you kind of see different styles that you're not used to. I guess if you're so practiced, like you're just training with your group and your like class, it can be interesting when you have someone with a different style. Maybe not so much me in this instance. I don't really do the Savate thing, but at least there's
not that much difference between any of the kick punch styles in my opinion, really.
Well, this is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because most people, I would think, as a generalization, probably haven't heard of Savate, or it's not a very common one. I think we were talking about it in sort of the popularity in the UK as well, and it's not huge still.
No, unfortunately, it's not. It's there's about approximately 10 clubs in the UK. The fighters numbers in the hundreds rather than the thousands that do Thai boxing or taekwondo or the like. Unfortunately, we've got work to do in terms of growing it, but hopefully things like meeting you and the like will help with that.
Well, it's such a super interesting martial art because it's got this really unique element of the shoes, the footwear, and that changes a lot of the style. But I guess for anyone that's listening that doesn't know about Savate, you're much better placed than I am to talk about it. So do you want to just explain sort of what Savate is, first of all?
Yeah, it's a stand-up kick punch fighting style. We wear boxing gloves and we follow English boxing rules with our hands, so jab, cross, hook, uppercut and the like. And then for our legs and our feet, we wear the Savate boot, which is a bit like a boxing boot, a bit shorter, comes just above the ankle, and has a reinforced toe, and you kick with the tip of the boot, using that as your weapon, rather than, for example, say Thai boxing, where you're kicking with the shin. We actually aim to hit with the tip of the boot, but obviously our toes are protected by the fact that we have this boot on, and you can use the sole of the shoe for things like push kicks, and the inside cutting edge where the ball of your foot would be for foot sweeps and strikes with that as well. I think we didn't actually cover that tonight with you, but you can use all sort of areas of the boot, but that's the primary thing. Savate actually means old shoe in French.
You mentioned that. I thought that was really interesting, actually.
And I'm not an expert on the history of it by any means, but my understanding is that it came from sailors who were travelling, French sailors who were travelling to the Far East, and they saw people doing stylised martial arts, for want of a better term, fighting, and they picked up this fighting style that they did in their deck shoes, because they were sailors and they would fight on deck. You can occasionally see old bits of footage where their style is very much based around grabbing hold of bits of rigging on a sailing ship, because you're on a slippery deck and potentially in waves, moving around as you fight, and so you're grabbing hold of bits of rope and the like to do your style. And it had no hands when it started out. So originally it was this fighting style, and it then merged with the gang fighting styles that were done in southern France, where these sailors were spending their time when they were back in France, and the Apache street gangs that would cause havoc throughout the streets of major French cities. And eventually they merged it with English boxing. There's a very famous example where the French kick fighting champion, Savate champion, it was feet only at the time, fought the English pugilist champion. So it was hands only versus feet only, and the boxer won. And as I understand it, from that point on, they went, "Oh, we're going to add hands into this. We'll have a bit as well." And that's where they mixed in the English boxing style with this French kick fighting style, and it's changed substantially. There's no longer, as you can imagine, grabbing hold of the rigging and the like. It's very much more a kickboxing stance, but yeah, with this focus on kicking with the feet. There's no grabbing, there's no holds. You are just boxing and kicking.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I didn't realize it had that much sort of that history and how it sort of came together. But it's definitely now, like you say, it's evolved into its own sport, right? And this is something I'm completely in the dark on, because I know we were talking in class a little bit earlier about, there's point systems and things like that, and different rule sets, because it's now solely like a combat sport, right?
Yes, you've got a whole range of things. There is no contact savate, which is done as which is called savate form, which is like a Taibo, Kaibo type thing. Then you've got savate assaut, which is light contact, control contact savate, where you're aiming to score points, and fight around very much a light contact points-based system. Then the full contact version is called savate combat, and
makes sense. Don't think you need to speak French to figure that one out.
Exactly, or elite. The French actually call it elite savate, and they that's where you don't wear shin pads. Your protection is a groin guard and a mouth guard only, boxing gloves and your boots, and you're going full knockout, full contact, full aiming to knock out and to disable your opponent, essentially. A newer version is Savate Pro that they've brought in. The differences are they're less strict on the rules about shinning. Okay. So in Savate Assaut and Savate Combat, we're explicitly banned from kicking with our shins.
Yeah, and that's one of the really interesting things.
It's one of the other ways it differs from the like of Thai boxing and the like. And you'll pick up fouls for hitting with the shin, and you potentially can be disqualified from a fight for using your shins. I think the argument is you get to hit them with a hard-tipped boot. You don't also
boot to the face.
You don't also get to shin them as well. So the difference with Savate Combat, you're not disciplined if you hit with the shin. They let it go. It won't score, but you can get away. It's also partly as a way so saboteurs could fight non-savate fighters, because the non-savate fighters could at least hit with their shins, and it wasn't
you can
a
have
problem.
a bit of style versus style.
You can mix it together. It's done shirtless as well, Savate Pro. So that's the only difference. We still wear the trousers. So Savate is done traditionally in trousers on the top, as opposed to Thai shorts or a dobok for Taekwondo. We wear a t-shirt essentially and these Savate trousers. But Savate Pro is done without a shirt, but still the trousers and the boots.
That's interesting.
Bit of there's a full range of it.
Yeah, that is. There's quite a scale, because I guess it's quite easy then to sort of play with what you like, because I think it's interesting to go back to the scoring system there for a second, because obviously the premise of the sport is essentially, can you hit them either gloves or the actual boot itself, right?
Correct.
Because you're explaining, and this is something I was having a hard time with upstairs, is that the ranges change very much when you're focus on using like the shoe or the foot rather than
when you're boxing, let's just using Savate so as an example, the points-based one. It's 1 point for a successful punch. For kicks, it's 1 point for a kick to the leg, 2 points for a kick to the body, 4 points for a kick to the head. The same scoring system is used in combat, but you're also allowed to knock people out because it's full contact. And looking at the amount of damage that combat fighters get, you want to knock them out as quickly as possible to end the fight as soon as possible.
I imagine there's only so many boots to the face and liver.
It's that tip of the boot to the face, to the knees. A lot of fights end early because of knee damage, but also because you're aiming for those soft targets under the ribs, the liver, solar plexus, those areas. If you go online on YouTube, search Savate Pro, search Savate Combat, find those top level fights, and you'll see an awful lot of them end with those kicks to the liver.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
They retire all the time because that pointed of the boot can get up under the ribs into the liver, and the fights end very often.
That doesn't surprise
like that.
me.
But it's good for headshots and the like as well. You can target the jaw, the temples, all sorts of.
I guess it's such a focused point compared to spreading the force across the foot or the shin. If
you come away from a championship, and you're not covered in sort of 2 pence-sized welts, you've been doing very well. That's what you see. I remember my original instructor, Martin Ross, saying to me, difference between Thai and Savate. Thai's like being hit with a baseball bat. Savate's like being hit with a hammer, where you've got that point of impact. At the end of the day, you don't want to be hit by either.
Neither
a Thai
a fun
shin
time.
or a Savate boot. But yeah, those are the sort of the main differences. But the whole thing revolves around the boot. Part of the reason it's only 1 point for punches is we're trying to keep that Savate style and not allow boxers to dominate.
Just come in,
So you only get the 1 point for boxing. 1 point for each punch for boxing to try and restrict the amount of points, whereas the kickers can get 4 points for a headshot. So it just keeps that Savate style.
It favours to be kicking. And is it just at the end of the match, if it goes to a decision, it's just the most points that you rack up?
Yes, they score it per round.
Okay.
So you can win, you're trying to win each round individually. The scoring system works 3 to one person, 1 to the other for domination, 3-2 for a win, 2-2 for a draw.
Okay.
And they work that out across the 3 rounds.
And that's individual. So the point. So if you win by, say, you've got 5 points ahead of me on the first round, then are you sort of resetting for round 2, and then whoever wins the most points in that round wins that round?
Then it's who wins 2 or more out of 3 rounds. If it's a 3-round fight. If you're doing Savate so Savate so is 3 2-minute rounds. Savate Combat is 5 3-minute rounds.
Okay.
Similar to other
like a lot of kickboxing
martial arts, and they add up the scores. You can lose points for fouls, so it's important not to. And shin kicks, for example, will get you a foul under ASO and combat rules, and those deductions are taken off your total score, which makes it very important not to foul, because if you've won a round 3 points to 2, but you've got a foul, you've then drawn that round. However much better you were doing, you've still only drawn, or it can take you from a domination to only a win. And then if it was reversed in the next round, you've potentially thrown the fight away. So
just because you landed with a shin or something.
That's quite. You've got to stick with these Savate rules to not, if you want to win the fights. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. And are there any other fouls, or is it just about hitting with the wrong? I suppose there's the obvious typical.
There's the obvious ones. So groin area is banned, throat area is banned, back of the head is banned. For women, the chest area is banned. the shinning is banned. So yeah, all those sort of things. In light contact, going too hard will get you a foul as well. The referee will initially, to try and keep things flowing, the referee will just remark, depending on the severity of the problem. Initially, the referee will just remark, and then if it continues, they'll stop the fight. You'll be sent to neutral corners, keep you away from your corner man, so you can't be coached while you're waiting. And then the referee will request from the judges whether they agree that you deserve that foul. If they do, it gets passed to the official in charge of the ring, and that goes on the scorecards to see in the final result. So it's really important to avoid those.
And do you know the scores in each round? Is it like an open scoring, or you're still sort of...
No, you don't know until the end.
Right.
Yeah, the rules have changed a bit recently. It was just the judges would write it on a piece of paper, hand it to the referee. The referee collects them all and gives them to the what we call the DO, the delegate official, who's in charge of the ring, to work out the winner. They then declare the winner. Now the judges all hold a red or a blue card corresponding to the winning corner, to make it more obvious to the audience who's won, because in a big sports hall or big noisy venue, it's hard to tell sometimes,
especially if you're trying to count points. So it's like, is that two punches, 3 punches?
Exactly. It's always useful when you're reviewing video footage later, because you've got these cards going up. It makes it that much easier to see who's won the fight.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the other interesting thing that you said as well in the rule set is you can kick the back as well, right? Obviously not the back of the head.
Back of the head and neck is banned, but yeah, you can kick to the,
and that still scores.
The leg score. So kick to the leg is absolutely legitimate, as is the whole torso area, and then it's just the throat and the back of the head. That's restricted.
Yeah, because the legs is something interesting as well, that I wanted to ask you about, because I noticed while we were training upstairs, there's a lot of sort of straight, like almost stamps, the side kicks and things. Sorry, I know it's all French. I can't remember the French words already.
That's fine. That's fine. If we were talking about karate, I wouldn't, I wouldn't understand the Japanese. So
But there's a lot of sort of like stomp kick type things to knees and things like that, which is also quite unique.
Yeah, we have what we call the chasse kicks, which are push kicks. We have a chasse frontal, which is somewhat like a teep from Thai boxing, and then we have a chasse lateral, which is a side push kick. We actually have a kick called an oblique, which is almost like a bridging kick from Wing Chun, which you'd use sort of to the upper thigh area of your opponent. So yeah, and you've got these push kicks as well as your more commonly known turning kick, whatever you choose to call it, in your different martial arts.
The various names of a roundhouse
but turning kick, roundhouse, thank you. Washigari, is it?
Maybe, I don't know the Japanese either.
But yes, the important thing is hitting with the tip of the boot.
Yes.
When you're doing the turning kicks, and using the push kicks, it's with the sole of the boot.
Yeah,
which again is a reinforced sole, which again gives you protection for your foot, but also is your weapon for causing damage on your opponent. And getting a heel in the thigh is enough to, even if you just take a few fractions of a tenth off someone's speed because you've deadened that muscle, it can help you win the fight, because they're then favouring the other leg, and
they're slower.
So the tactics all come into that when
that's it. I guess the shoe adds so many different elements. It sounds silly almost because it's just one thing, but it does change the game significantly. And even upstairs, when I was trying to play like a more Savate style and trying to hit that, it was not working very well for me, because I'm trying to think the range is just that bit more different. You're worrying about hitting with different parts of the foot that I'm
range is that little bit longer than it would be for other for shin kicking sports, or where you can use the knees and the like. Kneeing is not allowed. I should make that clear. So it does change it. It was what makes Savate unique, and what we love about the sport, its uniqueness, is that you're using the boot only to hit your opponent with.
Yeah, and they're pretty gnarly as well, to be fair.
Yes, I've only got my light contact boots with me. I've got combat boots as well, which have a a harder reinforced tip, so that you don't break your toes if you hit the hard areas of your opponent, knees, elbows, whatever. They just add a bit of protection for the foot in that full contact arena. But I don't tend to wear them in class because I don't wish to injure my students.
No, that's fair enough, and I'm sure they probably appreciate that. But it is interesting. I mean, I can't imagine taking a full-on whack from one of these to sort of the face or the liver, like you say. The liver sounds gnarly.
Liver, kidneys, all those sort of areas. Side of the knees is never nice. We will target those sort of soft, fleshy areas. There were plenty of things that we didn't have time to cover in one lesson, where you can base it on having maybe scoop to kick as their legs coming down, using the tip of the boot into sort of the underside of the thigh or even the calf or the back of the knee. And as you say, liver, kidneys,
all that good stuff.
Other soft, solar plexus, other soft areas of the torso. It is a very effective weapon. Once you've learnt to use it.
Yeah, that's it. It's I guess adapting to using that and throwing with your toes and things, because you don't see it very much, obviously, because it's quite reliant on having the shoe. But I suppose if you were to put it in more sort of a self-defense context as well, the shoe changes things massively. It makes it so much more realistic, I guess.
Well, that's the term I would have used. I would say it is more realistic in terms of self-defense, street fighting. Not that I would advocate street fighting, of course, as a responsible instructor.
Of course.
I push the give them your wallet and run away side of self-defense rather than getting stabbed or glassed or something. But there are not many street fights where you take your shoes off first and move around the broken glass of a nightclub in your bare feet. Much better to be used to being in shoes if you're going to get in street fights. And
throwing a kick with it is it is very different as well. Even playing with it on the bag, it made me nervous, even though I had the shoe on and everything. But it still feels off.
Look, if you're used to something else,
of course,
it will take a bit of getting used to. Friends of mine from other martial arts disciplines I've introduced to the sport have said, it's very strange getting used to it initially, but once you're used to it, it's nice, wearing a boot. Those of your listeners who've done Thai or other barefoot martial arts who've caught an elbow or a knee with their toes, with their bare foot, will know how uncomfortable that is.
You're wishing you had something on them.
I know people who've dislocated toes and the like from that sort of thing, and having your foot encased in 16 ounces of leather boot is, really very, very nice. So,
is that how much they weigh typically?
I would say it's probably more than that actually. But again, depending on the style of boot that you've got, I wear these ones with the lace cover made by Savate. It's their F1 model of boot. There's a lot of different Savate boots out there. You can get from various different manufacturers. Savate are the sort of the most renowned one.
Sure.
Is Isba. There's a few other brands out there. You can get vegan Savate boots. You can get the leather or suede ones like I wear. They come with this reinforced rubber sole and a reinforced tip of the boot, so that you can hit with the toes and not crunch your toes continually.
Which I'm sure is probably appreciated.
Lots of different boot options out there for the discerning saboteur. You've got plenty of options.
The saboteur, is that what is that the name?
Saboteurs for practitioners. In French, of course, it's saboteurs for the men, savatous for the women.
Okay, of course they have masculine and feminine.
I hope I've got that. I might be embarrassing my poor French horribly there, but I believe that's the case. So saboteurs and savatous Salutus.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing as well. I guess it's the same with any martial art, but all the names as well. You're going through them, and my brain. I'm not very good at digesting French. I did not do very well in my GCSEs back in the day, and it's never stayed with me.
Unfortunately, I didn't even manage GCSE French, but I've picked up a little bit more through doing the sport.
Sure, yeah.
It is a language I really do enjoy, love to hear, and I ought to learn much more of it than I do. The kicks have French names, but we also work to English names as well for them, just to make it easier for visitors and just easier names to say at speed when you're teaching.
Same with any martial art, isn't it? You go into, I don't know, a kung fu school and they've got the Cantonese name for everything, but they're like, no, it's this. Just
yeah, absolutely. They've all got different sports, so different names.
It's almost a language.
We follow these French names. Fouette is the equivalent of a turning kick. Chasse is your push kick, be it chasse lateral, which is side push kick. Chasse frontal, front push kick. Your revers lateral, which is like a hook kick. You've got revers frontal, which is an outwards crescent kick. So lots of. We have all the kicks.
Yeah, well, that's as well. The other thing, it's very interesting as a style because you're so. It seems very movement oriented. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong because this is one lesson's observation, but very movement oriented, very dexterous with your legs as well, and sort of changing.
Yeah, you don't see many Savate fights where they're just standing there, slugging it out, hitting each other, taking damage as well as giving it. We tend to have the concept of moving away when they're throwing something and moving back into range when you're wanting to do an attack. Moving round your opponent's very important so that you're not breaking the attacking range, so you can still keep that series of attacks up that you might wish to do. We don't believe in just standing there getting hit. We believe in hitting them and moving out of the way when they try and hit us back. So that adds a certain style and flair to it. As I said, I'd recommend to anybody going on YouTube, searching Savate Pro, Savate Combat videos on YouTube. There's some lovely fights out there from the various championships out there. Look for the French national championships, look for the World Combat Championships and the like. Savate is now represented at the World Combat Games.
Okay,
so
cool.
We've had last year that the World Combat Games was in Saudi Arabia. Nations sent teams to that. I think it's been in Russia once or twice as well. We've had the World Combat Games out there, and so we put on a good show at the World Combat Games, as do some of our what we call the associated disciplines, because in addition to all those versions of Savate I discussed, there's also a version that's quite like kickboxing Savate, boxe français as we call it, but it has sticks and it's called cane, and you can fight with various sizes of stick.
Oh, really?
You've got the big, thick, chunky, like a staff, but you've got one that's a bit more like a fencing rapier as well, and that's all part of what we call the associated disciplines. Again, look it up on YouTube. They wear armor a bit like the kendo type armor you may have seen. They wear, the big grill over the face, and thick armor, because you hear those sticks whistling through the air, and they aim to hit with the last 10 centimeters of it, and you do not want to be hit by that stick without full protection. So
I've got to say that's one of the things that's always. I'm quite game for trying different martial arts and like getting in the ring and competing in them. I don't mind doing it. The one that I'm not brave enough to do is any of the weapon arts. I've played around a little bit with some Filipino martial arts.
Carly,
I just would not want to get whacked full contact with any of those weapons, any of the weapons that they use in like a sports thing. It blows my mind that people do that.
There are versions of Can where they also wear Savate boots and they can kick in addition to hitting you with a stick. So the really good guys can do that as well. There's lots of different versions. There's a street defense version of Savate, taught specifically as that. There's a grappling ground fighting version. So there's kind of a version of Savate to suit any sort of preferred style. As I said, boxe français, which is what I showed you, French boxing, where it's, a kickboxing type thing, but there's these other related disciplines as well, the dance version,
Really?
You name it, there's a version of it. So it's a very versatile art. I do some other martial arts, have done some other martial arts as well, and I found it fairly effective. Obviously you come up against an expert practitioner in those sports and you're fighting to their rules. You haven't, it's a different game, but against your average other martial artist, it's an effective discipline.
Definitely, I can see that.
With the flurries of kicks and the speed and the movement as well, makes it hard to trap you and back, so.
It's quite unusual. It was very hard to deal with training upstairs because it was. You're right. It's the movement and the constant kicks. It's very different to a lot of other kickboxing styles. Which I thought was fantastic. I loved it. But you have kicks coming from all different angles and people shooting in and out. Like the range is hard. We have a full range of those kicks. We have the in addition to the sort of those straightforward straight kicks, turning kicks, push kicks. We have spinning kicks, jumping kicks, all those sorts of things. A great many of us started this thanks to the Matrix, and we all love a good jumping, spinning Matrix style kick. That's, believe it or not, why I started martial arts, was seeing the Matrix and being totally blown away and thinking, I have to learn to do something like that. And it was to my great joy that I, for those of you who know the Matrix well enough and have gone through the early scene where the character Neo is having the martial arts loaded up. If you freeze frame and go through those, Savate is one of the martial arts that he learns. Now, I was already doing it at that point, but to discover that's in there,
it was in the film that was the reason I'd started doing a martial art, was really quite a special moment, as you can imagine. So.
I like that. So that actually leads on quite nicely, because I was going to say, so a little bit about you then. We've spoken about the art, but you're very well versed in it. We were talking about. So you got started from the Matrix.
Believe it or not, yes. It was watching that film, like a great many people back in the early 2000s. I think there was that after the Matrix came a plethora of martial arts films. And I saw it. It was on at a party I was at, and I was just kept catching it out of the corner of my eye.
Can't have been that good a party if you're watching the...
kept catching it out of the corner of my eye, and eventually I just was totally distracted from the party and just sat and watched this film. And I got to the end of the film and I was like, I have to learn to do that. It really was a sliding doors, life-changing moment watching that film. And when I got home from this party the next day, I contacted Guildford Spectrum. I said, what martial arts do you offer? And they rolled a whole list, all the usual ones, and kickboxing, or French kickboxing, I think was what they said to me. I thought, oh, okay, that sounds like a good thing to learn. And along I went, and I met my first instructor, Martin Ross, who I'm still good friends with to this day. I think it's 24 years ago, almost to the day, in actual fact. 24 years ago.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. That I stepped into this hall, and there were he had a separate beginners and seniors class, and I met this amazing chap, Martin Ross, I'm still friends with, as I say, to this day. We're in frequent contact, and I was just totally blown away.
Wow.
And 24 years later, I'm still going strong. I met my girlfriend partner Rachel through it. She's a very successful saboteuse. She has won many medals and championships herself. And we have 3 kids as well. So, as I said,
they get on the Savate thing.
Believe it or not, they are. We now have a juniors class, and my 2 eldest, who are 9 and 6, they come along to my to the kids class as well. So they're getting good. We're hoping to get them along to their first competition this year. The third baby's only 2, so he's a little bit young.
No, never too young.
But give it a few months.
Give him a boot to play with.
Exactly. Well, he's got his own gloves already, so we'll get him there eventually. And so as I said, it was an absolutely life-changing moment stepping through this sports hall, meeting Martin Rossi, as we call him, and it changed my life.
Just happened to be French kickboxing
happened to be French kickboxing, and it just suited my body dynamic. Different sports suit a different physical style. I think Savate, I just dropped lucky. It was the first one I did. I've dabbled with some others as well because there isn't much Savate around. So I tried ITF Taekwondo. I did that under the Vision organisation, run by Mr. Cassidy. He taught me Taekwondo, and that was under the Vision organisation taken by Philip Lear, who's quite well known in the ITF Taekwondo world. And I did that for about 5 years. And also I've tried Thai boxing. I've done that since about 2010. I'm lucky enough to go to Working Thai under Mick Murphy, who's very well known in the Thai boxing world. I mix around a fair bit, and I've done Thai boxing for a few years as well. Not very successfully. I'm fairly terrible at Thai boxing, but it is good fun. The training's incredible, and Mick's an incredible coach as well. So I've been really lucky to meet a series of really experienced, really incredible coaches who've inspired me and got me teaching as well as fighting and traveling around the world, meeting all these incredible people. I've made friends around the globe through this sport. I mean, literally, I've got Savate friends in all 4 corners of the planet. I'm friends with the Australian Savate team. I'm friends with the Canadian and the Americans. Brazilian friends all over Western Europe. I've been 3-4 times to Bulgaria. I mean, how often do you go to Bulgaria? Back in early 2000s when I first went out there, not many people went to Bulgaria.
That's it.
That was
it's still not really thought of as this huge tourist destination, is it? So
as the saying goes, travel to interesting, incredible places, meet interesting, incredible people, and kick them in the face. So it's been an incredible journey. 24 years.
I'm sure.
By. I've been very lucky.
Well, that's one of the awesome things I always find about martial arts, because I'm quite fortunate as well to have travelled around quite a bit and met a lot of different people. Obviously, doing this podcast, I'm very lucky. I get to sit down with martial artists of different styles and sort of learn it. But it's fantastic the sort of the mates you can have, and like you can go everywhere and just talk to people about it and just train, and it's such an interesting thing in terms of like almost a social element to be able to go around and just know people universally, even if there's a bit of language barrier and stuff. There's that inbuilt communication. I love it. It's one of the big perks.
It's the meeting people at the end of the day, isn't it? It's you can spend 6 minutes, 15 minutes trying to kill someone, and then you'll be buying each other a pint in the bar afterwards, and you've made a friend for life. Especially with social media, it allows you to stay in contact with people so easily. And it's the martial arts are a fantastic thing in general. I would encourage anybody to take up a martial art. Obviously my particular love is Savate, but you will get something out of it. If it's fitness, if it's meeting people, might be your life partner and you have a bunch of kids through it.
There you go.
But it's lifelong friends. It's that we all put it on the flyer: get fit, build self-confidence, meet people. It is absolutely
100% true.
What you get from doing a martial art, and I'm lucky enough to have found one that I've loved from day one and met a fantastic group of people through it. So.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a key message, because I always say that, like I've had this conversation with quite a few people where they sort of, I'm thinking about getting into martial arts, and like, what should I do? I'm like, anything, just whatever's nearby, whatever suits you, just go. If you don't like it after a while, do something else, but go do a trial at everything.
We're not short of martial arts to choose from. Let's face it, there are hundreds in the UK alone. There's always there's plenty. Every sports centre has got a plethora of martial arts to choose from. So yeah, if it doesn't suit you at first, don't get on with the coaches or whatever. Try something different. You know?
Yeah, that's it.
But I guarantee you'll get something from whatever you know.
It's never a loss to start a martial art.
No.
Even if you do it for a month, like you'll get something.
Yeah, and you know, anybody who's listening to this podcast that hasn't started or is thinking of going back, you know, you dropped out for whatever reason, be it COVID, you stopped going and you want to come back, but you're nervous or you think you're not fit enough. I don't know anyone of the people who've said to me, "Oh, I'll come back when I'm fitter," who's ever come back, because you will never get martial arts fit without just going to the martial art.
You just got to go put the work in.
You know, and they will welcome you back, you know, with open arms. So just show up, whatever condition you're now in. You know, if you
suck it up,
suck it up, and you'll get there and you'll get it back quicker than you realise.
100%.
I'm very lucky to have had a student return who has he wasn't here tonight. You didn't meet him, but he's been back the last few weeks, and it's his first class since 2008.
Wow!
And you know, I couldn't be happier to have him back. And
it's great.
Back in the fold of doing Savate. It's absolutely fantastic. So, you know, do please your ex-instructors by returning.
I'm all for that. Yeah. I actually did the same thing years ago. So when I was a kid, I did karate, Tang Sudo, and I did that until I was like 12 or something like that. Stopped for years and years and years, and then I got back into martial arts, and I was like, what should I do? And I was working all over the place at the time, and I went, do you know what? I can go back to my original one. And it had been something like 10 years, I think, since I'd stopped. And I went back to her, and bear in mind, I was a 12-year-old when I last saw her. I went back, and she's like, "Oh, Tom, how's it going?" And, you know, it was great. And I trained with her only 6 months or something, and then I had to move for work. But it was great going back.
Be very unusual for an instructor not to you know, welcome back an experienced student.
Yeah.
For a start, it's easy to teach someone who knows what already what they're doing. You haven't got to go through those week one basics. So, you know, do give it a go.
Yeah, definitely. But returning back to sort of your history as well. So you've done a lot of the competition side as well, I understand.
Yes, started out with various British championships or British inter-club style, you know, competitions. I think first ever one I went to was a Cambridge event. There's a very successful Cambridge club under Ollie Batts. Anybody knows Savate knows Ollie. He's been doing it a really long time. He's a bit of a historian in the sport as well.
Awesome.
Most of the text you'll find on Wikipedia and the like was written by Ollie. So that's my first ever competition, was up there. We brought about a British championship in, you know, not too long after to that. We had a league system as well, so that you built up points throughout various events that were dotted around the country. 4 or 5 different events, because you could build up your scores, add them all together, and based on that we would award a champion
who competes it.
We've done it with individual events, just one per year, and your whole focus is towards that. That's where we are at the moment, because there's so many fantastic international events you can go to, and it's so easy to travel internationally now to competitions all over Europe. I was at the Helsinki Open in March, for example. We don't do the league now. We just work your way around the various international ones that you want to go to. As I said earlier, meet amazing, incredible people from other countries and kick them and punch them in the face. And then we have the British Championships, usually in April. Based on that, you can get awarded or offered a team place, because every year there's an international, be it the Europeans or on alternate years the World Championships. I'm lucky enough to have been selected for Team GB quite a few times. My first one was 2004 at the World Championships out in Bulgaria, and I managed to get on the medal podium for that. And then it's moved around Europe for the Europeans and the Worlds ever since then. And I'm glad to say I've been selected for Team GB this year, and I'll be heading off to the to the World Championships in October in Slovenia.
Hence you mentioned earlier, you've got to be getting ready.
Indeed, yes. I've got 3.5 months or so to get fully prepared for another a attempt at a world title. So,
awesome. And what is that in? What style of Savate?
This World Championships is ASSO, so controlled contact, points-based fighting. It alternates with the full contact championships. So the full contact Europeans is this year, and it's the light contact worlds. Next year it will be the full contact worlds and the light contact Europeans. So you've always got something you can go to and work towards. We've sent people to both championships over the years, full contact and combat, also called combat, and the controlled contact. We always try and send a good team along too. So selections based on various criteria, predominantly the British Championships. That sort of pretty much earns you a right to be offered a team place. But sometimes you have freak results. I'm involved in running the federation and help do the team selection as well.
Okay.
Although I step aside when it comes to choosing my particular weight category. For those that are interested, it's based around weight categories with 5 kilo boundaries.
Okay.
So we have 8 female and 8 male categories. Works its way up those 5 kilo boundaries, and you aim for a specific one. We try to put people in whatever category they won in the British tends to be the place they'd be offered on the team for an international. But there's a bit of wiggle room with that, particularly if we have maybe 2 people who are particularly good for one category, we might have them fighting out of category, but they would be in a reserve position for their natural category in case the primary person was injured or pulled out for whatever reason. So we try and put as big a team as possible of well-trained fighters who are going to put on a good show for Team GB, because we don't want to
that's a big one to represent.
Well, exactly. So it's as I said, I've been lucky enough to be on the team a few times and got myself a few medals.
Nice.
Sadly, never quite managed it on the top step, but I've certainly had a few bronze and European. Bronze and silver. Europeans and worlds, and I'm still aiming for a world title before I'm turning my toes up and pushing up the daisies. So fingers crossed for this year. If I put the work in, that's the important thing. I'm very lucky. Rachel's a very supportive partner. I think that comes from the fact she understands the dedication that's required.
Especially if she's competed herself.
Exactly. Well, so she's competed at that level, as I said, very, very successfully. European and world, she's got a very large medal and trophy collection of her own. She understands, and I'm very lucky that through that she's understanding the dedication and time it takes, because I'm training pretty much every day. And that when you've got 3 kids, that's difficult to find that time.
I'm sure.
You need a supportive partner who's willing to let you go out training. And they're willing to put the kids to bed every night on the grounds that, and get them up in the morning when you're out early doing your early morning runs or your early morning gym sessions, which are all part of a comprehensive training regime to prepare you for a world or a European title track. So
it must be interesting as well, having your partner that also trains the same sport, because I'm assuming, maybe not if you've got 3 kids now, but that you must have trained together a lot and sort of push each other and train regularly extra outside of...
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we do 3, 4, 5 sessions a week in something, plus running and strength and conditioning courses as well. As I said, I do a bit of Thai boxing as well as the Savate, because that's also a sport I love and I want to keep that up. And there's only so many nights of the week that you can fit a martial art in, so there are always some clashes.
It's
a difficult balance. But yes, as I said, having someone you live with who is an excellent Savateuse themselves, Savateurs, work on the pronunciation. An excellent Savate fighter themselves is. I'm very, very fortunate. She's good on the tactics. She's great in the corner. We do have pictures of her cornering me at the 2015 European Championships with a baby strapped to her in a papoose type thing. I think we might have been breaking the rules there. You're only actually allowed 2 people in your corner, and I had Charlie, team Charlie Howes, who's a legend of this sport, in my corner, and Rachel. And a baby as well. So I think we were technically breaking the rules, but they were kind enough to let that one slide.
That must be fun. So you'll corner each other as well.
Oh yeah. We'll when we haven't got babies to.
Yeah.
No, Rachel and I will corner each other or other members of the team, because often those team members are the most experienced people you've got with you on the team. The French team are very lucky because they're funded. They have a full collection of coaches and physios, and it's full-time coaching staff, whereas we're very much doing it on a sort of amateur level. And frankly, for the fact we're doing it at an amateur level, the amount of medals that Team GB brings home every year is fantastic.
Doing pretty good for yourself.
It's rare that we don't come home with at least 3 medals of one colour or another. James Southwood, who's our current Federation, this is the Great Britain Savate Federation president, he won it in 2014. He was world champion then, and he's had a number of silvers and some very close decisions in the finals of European and Worlds himself. He's an excellent corner man. I always enjoy having him in my corner because his tactics is so fantastic, and he's great to train with because he's a current fighter up at that top level as well. So that's always what you're looking for, is those top level people who are going to push you. I'm very lucky at my club. I've got a lot of experienced fighters who've been doing it a long time, many of them longer than me. Charlie being a prime example, and his twin brother Richard.
Yeah.
Who you fought both of them tonight. Between the two of them, I think they've been doing it about 40 years each.
Wow.
So I've got 80 years of kickboxing experience just from the two of them to draw on, and whether it's them coaching me at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning on a driveway in the rain, or out at a World Championships in the final. I'm lucky to have those experienced people along in my corner and to help me out.
It makes such a difference having like a good corner team that can trust, and that have like that experience and the knowledge.
It's so important to have that trust, and I have that because I know that they've been champions themselves. Yeah. So you can always think they know it. They know what it's like. They know when you're dying on your feet and you just want to throw the towel in, and they're going, come on, and encouraging you to keep on fighting to the last second of the round.
I guess it must be quite easy to be demoralised by a few of those shoes to the gut.
I mean, I've had fights where I can give you a good example. The 2014 World Championships in Rome, and I got to the final. I was fighting a fantastic French champion, Tony Assalan. He's a bit of a legend of the sport, and he was a full contact, a combat Savate fighter. And gosh, did he know how to use those boots to my midriff. And I just remember the amount of shots I got to the stomach and the solar plexus area, regardless of how much I was trying to block those shots. He just kept piling them in. And I just wanted that fight to be over. I was just praying for that bell to go by the end, because he was a very deserved champion. I gave him the best fight I could, and I'm proud of my performances usually. But I really was secretly I was quite pleased when that bell went.
Thank Christ,
he was
that's over.
he was just fantastic, and it's a privilege to fight people like that.
Well, that's it. It's not so bad losing to someone like that.
No, absolutely. It's the fights you should have won that
that's the one that haunts
you're most disappointed about. But it's been a fantastic journey, my Savate one, and I'm very lucky to have got the results and had those opportunities to fight those fantastic people.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And the one thing as well that we were talking about a little bit off camera, which I wanted to ask you about, which I found really interesting, is the ranking system that Savate uses. Because a lot of people are very familiar with the belt idea, but you don't have that, do you?
No, we don't have belts. We do have a similar system. It's based on gloves rather than belts. We don't wear a belt, so it makes more sense to use gloves. We start out with blue glove as the first one. You should, with solid training, you should be able to get that in 3 to 6 months if you're doing a couple of nights a week training. And then that builds its way up to the top fighting glove, which is silver glove, and there's actually 3 levels of that: silver 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
There is,
and is that sort of like a black belt equivalent? Is my
I would say that's
silver
above.
Okay.
There's an interesting video about this on YouTube, done by James Southwood, the president of our federation, discussing the different levels of it. We believe that yellow glove is about black belt level, and glove 1 is your first dan, and you've got silver 2 and silver 3. And then there's gold glove, which is a sort of an honorary award you can get for kind of contribution to the sport.
Yeah, I'd heard that was one I was going to ask you, because I'd heard that it's not something that you earn from just sort of like showing up. It's you've got to run a club or give something back to the sport.
Something like that, yes. Maybe you put years of coaching in, or I believe our current the International Federation President, Dr. Julie Gabriel, she I believe is a gold glove, and that's as a thank you from the sport to her for her contribution to so fantastically running our sport for many years. So there are, I think there's a few other things. I believe there's a purple glove, or certainly there used to be, for winning a certain number of fights in a row. But yeah, the main ones are starting out with blue, and there's various grades of blue when you actually do your grade. So we have gradings, and you can work your way up. So it goes blue, green,
testing you now,
red. Red's a good one to get, because it's considered the sort of the start of your fighting journey.
Okay.
So the first 2 are about learning the basics of the sport and the movement,
the fundamentals.
And once you've got the red, you can represent Team GB, for example. And there's a lot of other things that come from. You can start down the coaching track, for example.
Sure. Okay.
Once you've got your red, after red comes white, then yellow, and then silver. And again, each of those has 1, 2, and 3 as layers within them, because otherwise you can rack through them a bit quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not that many, actually.
No. But it takes us to the sort of equivalent number of belts as you'd get in, for example, Taekwondo, to pick something out the air, and up to your sort of 3rd, 4th dan level. I think, as I said, there's a fantastic video that
I suppose it's a bit different. And do you literally physically wear coloured gloves?
Not at all.
Okay.
No. You can fight in whatever colour.
I was going to say, I've rocked up today in my black gloves. I don't know.
Yeah, and I wear the orange ones just for a bit of fun and flair and the like. You obviously can match your gloves to your rank, but there's no requirement to. You can wear a sew-on patch that shows your glove level if you so desire. But, if you can sew.
That's another good one.
But it's not particular. We're very much a fighting sport rather than a traditional martial art. Your
I definitely get that.
Taekwondos, your karates, of that sort of thing. We're more akin to boxing or Thai boxing as being a fighting sport, fighting hobby, or however you choose to look at it, rather than a martial art. But I believe we are taught to some countries, militaries. They do learn it in
that
their military.
doesn't surprise me at all.
Particularly in France, but I believe some other places as well.
Well, they're a bit biased, aren't they?
We, as I say, we're a fighting sport rather than a martial art.
Yeah, you definitely get that impression, and a fantastic one as well, and one that I really hope can grow and become more popular, because I think it's really interesting. I think it's really unique. I am aware, obviously, it's quite late now. I don't want to keep you too much longer. We're coming up on the hour anyway. But is there, I guess, where's the best place for people to find you? I'll put all of the links to various social medias and websites and things like that in whatever description people are listening to. But yeah, is there anywhere in particular you want to point people?
So we've got Facebook, we've got Guildford Savate, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Not that I use Twitter as much as X.
Yeah, Twitter doesn't even exist anymore.
Shows how old school I am. I think an awful lot of information is available on the Great Britain Savate Federation webpage and Facebook pages. We're all over the place there, and so do check those out. I'm available on Facebook as Savate James, so you can find me on there. So do look us up, and
and definitely anyone that's interested in taking a class, I would recommend coming down. I'm definitely going to come back and
do anybody of any level. If you're a beginner, you're very welcome. If you've done a lot of other martial arts, you're welcome. If you've done Savate somewhere else and you want to come along, you're very, very welcome. We'll adjust the class to your level. I've got assistant instructors who can take people aside if we need to work on specific things. We're all over the country. Guildford, London, Cambridge, Oxford, Birmingham, Manchester. We're in Scotland. There's Savate all over the place. So you can find a Savate club near you and come and join the boot wearing fun.
Yeah, do it.
Please do pick us up and come and say hello. You'd be very, very welcome.
Yeah, it's a super friendly club, and I really enjoyed it. Great class, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening as well, not only to teach me, but also then sit down and
it's a pleasure to talk about this sport that I've loved for so long. And
it's good because you can see
much out of doing.
Yeah, you can see the passion come through, and that's always nice.
It's a great sport. It's great for kids. We have a Surrey Savate. I should have mentioned them. Surrey Savate is our kids club. Over in near Woking, so do if you've got kids who might be interested. It's a really great sport for kids to learn as well. Learn that discipline, get fit, and learn a skill that they can use for self-defense and self-confidence and all those sort of things that come from it. So if you've got kids who are interested, send them along, and we'll get them going.
Beautiful.
Get them fighting.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Real pleasure. Thank you for listening to me witter on about this strange French foot fighting sport. And
that's what I'm here for. Love it.
If you do stay in touch, do stay in contact. It'd be great to have you along again. Very welcome.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed that conversation. I certainly did. I thought it was fascinating. I always love learning about a martial art I don't know very much about. And Savate is a very unique one. Thank you very much again to James for his time. I hope everybody listening here enjoyed it. Please do go check out Guildford Savate. I put all the links in the description below. Whatever platform you're listening on, you can go and find out a little bit more about them. But please do check them out, support them, and find out a little bit more about Savate, because it is a fascinating martial art, very underrated. Thank you very much for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, share this around with another martial artist, help the podcast grow, and until the next time, I'll catch you then.